This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. This year's IHRSA conference promises to be the biggest and best yet. Based in sunny San Diego, this multi-day event will feature keynote speakers, educational sessions, and a massive expo floor featuring the latest and greatest in fitness technology, equipment, and services. Attendees will have the opportunity to learn from some of the most successful and innovative figures in the industry, plus connect with like-minded individuals to help them grow their business. To lift the veil on what you can expect, plus maximize your time there, we're joined today on the podcast by CEO and President of IHRSA, Liz Clark. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry leaders and influencers. Plus, we're continuing our gym and wellness haven tours, which include inspiring founder stories. This is ATFW. You've been making some massive transitions over the last couple of years, but for those that aren't familiar, explain what is the role of IHRSA?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Chrissy. And because it's really evolving, which is really interesting. So I've been in this position now about a year and a half. And organizationally, sort of traditionally, IHRSA's function was really around to having a fantastic convention and trade show, putting out really fantastic data and research, a magazine that the industry likes, and some focusing on maybe here in the US, some state advocacy. And that was really, our bread and butter of what we did organizationally. But unfortunately, when COVID hit, the industry really was sort of left, with not a lot of options. And we saw that around the world, that we were not considered essential. We weren't part of these conversations that other industries similarly were. And so our board made a very strategic decision to change the direction of what IHRSA was doing and what we're going to do in the future, to number one, be our North Star of advocacy. And so what does that mean, right? And it's advocating on behalf of the industry to be able to tell the story of the good that we're providing, talk about how we're preventative healthcare, and really change a lot of the image and reputation that we've had for a long time to be that we are responsible actors, we're good players, we are inclusive, all of those things that we know we are, but we have a lot of homework to do to change that narrative. So that's been a busy task for me since getting in this seat, and required a lot of organizational changes, and the changes aren't through, and there's been a lot of moving parts from that, and even including rebranding the organization, which is coming. So a lot of exciting things have been done, and then I think a lot more to come.
Well, and I think for yourself, as I understand it, obviously you're a very strategic hire. You have this wealth of knowledge when it comes to trade and policy. So since you kind of got into the helm here, talk me through the type of advocacy that you've really been trying to cultivate within the organization.
So I think it's a mix of offense and defense. I think if you look at what we're doing on the offense, we're having really great conversations with the WHO, talking about where fitness belongs in the overall spectrum of things. We are not a leisure. We are more preventative healthcare. So let's talk about that in those audiences with the OECD, folks like that. Also having those conversations here in Washington on Capitol Hill, as well as what does that mean, and what does that mean for policy? Now, there is an opportunity, and there's this act called the FIT Act, which would allow, at least here in the US, people to use their flexible spending dollars to be able to join a gym or a fitness center. And so that's really powerful, because we're not talking about changing the dollars and cents, we're talking about how to use them. So there's a lot of really great energy around this bill. And more to come on that. In fact, we're going to get that bill introduced next month. And we already have overwhelming amount of folks that already want to co-sponsor it. So that's some of the offensive stuff. Defense, we know that there are challenges around every corner, especially at the state level. How are we handling biometric data, and what are we doing to store it and keep it safe? What are we doing about auto renewal contracts and making those sure that they're fair to the consumer, but also fair and predictable to the business community? And then another one is around music rights. Who is in the space of music rights, and what is it that companies have to pay for, and what are they getting for that? And what's, again, going to be a fair and level playing field? And those are just sort of the initial ones. That doesn't even start to get into conversations that, to be had with the White House, conversations around other things on tax incentives, around medical fitness. There's no shortage of obviously sort of policy lanes for us to play in, if you will. So those are the ones we're in right now.
Well, and I think the nice thing is that the voices in this industry really are rallying, and maybe now more than ever, because I think it was this collective experience through the pandemic where, paralleled in the States as well as Canada, the fitness industry really had such a difficult time, because in my mind, it's the thing that you can do to stay healthy and well. And all of a sudden, these were the businesses that were being penalized in a large way over here. And I know in parallel to yourself, obviously, there's a tremendous amount of advocacy happening in Canada. And looking at the statistics, it just seems like such a no-brainer to have these tax incentives and to have these movements, considering chronic disease costs governments billions of dollars. And we know that this industry is the thing that literally is the fighting tool in our back pocket to go against this. So how has the advocacy work really been received by your members? And are you seeing a growth in members coming on board once the word spreads?
Yes. So the answer is yes. There is a newfound energy in the organization strictly because of what we've done around advocacy. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. And so we are seeing everything from our traditional members, which are more regional based focus members, but to the studio community who's coming in stronger than ever with us. And in fact, are partnering with us on our trade show, which is very exciting, to the biggest brands in the world. And I'll tell you one thing that I've put together, and I'm really excited about the culmination of this, is a strategic advisory council. And that is, we've invited the top 25 folks in the industry to come together around the world and to talk about what are the looming challenges on the horizon for us. What is it that the association can be doing stronger and better for you? And what is our role? What is the brand's role? What is the company's role? And there's just so much opportunity for us to be coming together with this unified voice. Yes, we're competitors in many other ways, shapes, or forms, but when we come to this narrative of what we're all trying to push this boulder over the top of the mountain, it's important that we have every voice at the table. And I'm really thrilled to see so many have come back stronger than ever. We've got more premium members than we ever have. And part of that is because premium dues go towards advocacy related expenses. Doing things like growing our political action committee here in the US. And that's money that can go help legislators who are fighting for us. That's bigger than it's ever been. And we're just getting started. So it's really exciting to see the energy and the hope, I think, for the future and where we can go with this thing.
It really has been re-energized. And I'm sure, Liz, similar to yourself, I didn't always start in the fitness industry. It really was just something that I knew impacted my life and I was passionate about. And something I've even found from doing these interviews and having people from, like, I had a gentleman from Portugal, and everyone has such a dedicated belief to this work, because we know that this is something that is going to help economies when it comes to the dollar amounts and savings when it comes to combating chronic disease. But subsequently, we know that this is something that literally changes lives for the positive. So I do commend you for being a driving force and gathering the troops, so to speak. IHRSA 2023, though, is why we have you. It is so very close and around the corner in San Diego. So talk to me a little bit about this trade show, what it's been over the last couple of years, and what we can expect going into this year.
Yeah, well, listen, I think 2023 is the year of recovery across the board. It's the year of recovery for our trade show. It's the year of recovery for our industry. And we're seeing that reflective everywhere. So we have well over 300 folks participating on the trade show floor, which is great for us. We're expecting thousands and thousands of attendees, which is fantastic. Really dynamic new speakers. We've really looked at our speakers with a different eye. We've got 25% of our speakers are people that you've never heard from before. So it's not the same old, same old. And on top of that, we've created some really cool things. We're doing a whole track on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and having really specific sessions around trying to help our industry for those that might not be able to yet, put their toe in the water on that issue yet. doing a lot more on women's leadership. We have a fantastic panel coming together of women from Saudi Arabia, Colombia, Asia, and the US to talk about women's issues. That'll be really fascinating. And then some other really interesting things. We're going to have a writer's row and a podcast row for folks that are in that industry. Maybe you're even going to be a part of it, Chrissy. We'd love to have you.
Putting the application in there.
Yeah.
So
okay, good.
I'm looking forward to meeting some faces for sure.
Yeah, good. And then just some other things, like we're going to be doing a VIP PAC event with one of our keynote speakers to try to raise money for the PAC. There seems to be a lot of good energy around that. We've opened up the floor. We're going to do an open hour of the floor for our premium members. So to be able to walk the floor and do some business deals before the show officially opens to everyone. And then, of course, partnering with the studio community. So we've added a whole day on Thursday with BFS to do programming specifically around studios. And so we're going to kick our panel, or sort of, we'll close official IHRSA session down with a fireside chat with some of the biggest CEOs in the world, talking about, challenges again on the horizon and opportunities to come together. And then that'll also kick off everything that we're doing for the studio. So some really cool, interesting things that haven't been done before. And of course, going back to a city which the industry loves. And so being able to go to San Diego, I've been to San Diego, but not for this show. And so I'm really excited to see how we take over the town, and it'll be a great week.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information. Yeah, I think we're going to be blowing them out of the water, because I can't imagine all that good energy ending up in one place. If there's somebody that, let's say it's their first time coming out to the show, what would you say tip-wise would be the best ways to maximize your experience?
That's a great question, because it could be overwhelming. We have over 100 different education sessions coming. So I would say study the program accordingly. Look to see where you think you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Plan your schedule out. And then, look for those that are in the industry that are members of the IHRSA board, members that are part of our NHFA or our GHFA or our industry partner council. And those will all have ribbons on them. And they are all the leaders in our industry that are designed to be helpers. So if you see any of those folks, make sure you let them know, hey, I'm a first timer. I'm thrilled to be here. What do you think I need to be doing? And I guarantee, a lot of those folks, the amount of people that it's really interesting come up to me at the show and say, I've been here since the very beginning. This is my 42nd show or something. And those are the people that want to help, and they've got the bandwidth and the strength to be able to do the introduction. So I would say that. And then I would say, check out, we've got some really cool international things. We've got a Latin America forum coming, of course, the Canadian forum together. And, we're working on possibly an Australian one. And I think that there's so many learnings to be had when you see what is going on around the world, because operations are not the same and the challenges are not the same. And, but it's really just a coming together. And that's what I think people want in their craving, and what they'll leave feeling they got.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It becomes this hive for idea generation, because I'm sure even consumer behaviors are so different when you travel around the world, and you might connect with somebody that's solved a challenge that you're facing that is a way that you can integrate into your own business. So I imagine there's a lot of reunions and a lot of new friends that are made. When people are going around the floor, what would you say are some of the biggest opportunities within the fitness industry that maybe they should be paying attention to or could learn about when on site? Like some of the front-running trends, perhaps.
Yeah, well, listen, I think what we're going to see at this show is a lot of new equipment and a lot of new technology in everything from the app space to the recovery space. And we know as this industry evolves, both of those things, both the technology and recovery, are booming industries. And we're seeing a lot of our member companies even restructuring how they're handling their membership overall structure. Maybe they're including recovery in a basic membership where that wasn't something that was driving folks into the gym before. So I think pay attention to that. I think look at the new interesting products that are on the horizon. I love to see that. I love to see, what are people drinking? What are people wearing? What can we be doing more with that? But all the equipment, and then you'll see the trends. Our trends coming back to basic weightlifting, to medicine balls, to barbells. Are we going to see more of that on the floor versus more of, the treadmills and the ellipticals? I don't know. I think, it depends on our supplier members and what they're seeing is, going to be the most profitable. And, but they're all showing up. We've got the biggest brands in the industry that are all signed up. They're all placed on the floor. I think it'll be some really great energy around it.
And when people are checking out the equipment, again, thinking from a first-timer's perspective, how interactive can they get, especially when we know that there are probably some business deals that happen on the floor as well. So how much are they able to interact with the environment?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I think those that have met me know that I'm 5'1", so I wear heels quite often, and so when I walk the floor, I tend to have some heels on and a dress. And I said, this is garbage. I need to be getting on these machines, and so I'm going to start wearing sneakers, and I'm going to start getting on this stuff and really feeling it. And that's been really fun to be able to do that. So I would encourage that. I mean, we're a fun industry, we're an athletic industry. Come and then ask the questions, because people have been working in some instances years and years to develop, these machines, and they're proud of them and they want to tell you all about them. So don't be afraid, to ask the questions. And then of course, business deals happen, and they might not happen right there and then on the floor, but it all comes back to relationships. And then if you make the relationships, the deals happen later.
And when it comes to, as you were mentioning, you have such a robust network of talks that are going to be taking place and forums taking place. What are some of the key challenges that the industry is facing now, and maybe some of the talks that we should gravitate toward to help educate ourselves on how to move through those as a collective?
Fantastic question. I think, one of my personal challenges is that I believe that we need to be closer tied to the medical fitness community. And I think as we talk about our industry really being preventive healthcare, and you talk about just the savings, I mean, we know from our recent Deloitte report that the cost of inactivity is $85 billion a year. And we know that in the US, you could save $3,400 a year per person if we were to invest in activity. And so to make the dollars and cents argument is our job at IHRSA to the lawmakers, but to really help our industry see themselves as preventative healthcare for those that don't, and that how medical fitness ties into that. And I do say that that's one of the things that we saw medical fitness facilities open quicker, faster, even if they were opening just for rehab purposes, that type of thing. But it's one of those issues that is not terribly sexy, So I think that folks are like, yeah, I get that, but I don't want to, but I think we need the talkers, and we need to be more articulate when it comes to that space. Now, the other fun stuff, that's the story that tells itself, like what's happening with pickleball out there. You can't.
Big fan over here, actually.
Right. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, people can't get enough pickleball. And that's great, because one of the things that I think is really important is that we got to make our facilities fun and approachable. One of the things that I've been talking with our board about, and it's really true, is that we just need people moving like 10 minutes a day. And what that does, and we know we've got all the studies and the data behind what that means versus this sedentary lifestyle that, 80% of the people in the world have. But if you can just get up and move for 10 minutes a day, maybe 30 minutes, 3 times a week, that's achievable. And so how do we talk about that story, and how do we make exercise goals achievable and not intimidating? And especially right now, we're in a really funny period of time. A lot of the resolutions have worn off. People bit off more than they could chew. But we say, let's take a fresh look at that. And how do we make things fun? How do we make things interactive? How do we get people in the club having a holistic experience? And so that's why I think some of our most innovative clubs are looking at things like nutrition and yoga. And we talked about wellness or recovery, but then also healthy aging, healthy working, healthy sleeping, all of that goes into a healthy lifestyle is all the space that our industry touches. And you're going to see all of that in some way, shape, or form in San Diego.
And you bring up such a good point. I always use the comparison when we're children, how excited we are to get outside for our recess time. And really, it's just active play. And then when we look at our gym spaces, it's cultivating that same experience. And I always explain to people that maybe are making that bridge from no fit to low fit, where I'm like, think of it in that context and find the thing that sparks that joy inside of you, and you will. And it's not the thing that you have to do. It becomes the thing that you want to do. And I think that really is what this industry celebrates. As we look, I know you mentioned obviously, and we know it is that time of year that a lot of the resolutions and we start to see a bit of a downturn in attendance at the gyms. What would you say the recovery has looked in regards to return to our actual physical spaces, virtual versus the virtual experience that we saw an uptick over the pandemic?
Yep. So I think you have to go back and see who was hit the hardest. So it's not necessarily equal across all playing fields. I mean, we know that 25% of gyms and fitness centers went out of business permanently. We know we lost 1.5 million jobs, at least here in the US. And we know that those that had more liquidity were stronger footing. And we know those that were in red states were stronger as well. So all of that is sort of changing the pace of recovery for various folks across the country. But we're seeing in some instances double-digit growth. We're seeing some numbers that are back to 2019 levels. We are seeing an explosion in the HVLP sector. We are seeing an explosion in the studio sector. So we talk about the year of recovery, and we're really seeing it. So I'm encouraged by that, and then I'm encouraged by how creative we're seeing some of these things. Like I said, people that are making sport more fun, and bringing back kickboxing, moving your machines outside, all of that stuff makes things more approachable. And I like what you said, no fit to low fit. That's, how do we just start with that? And so that's why I think that HVLP is so important, because of the price point and what that means, and what that means. And we're seeing an increase because of that in franchises, and we're going to see that more and more even across the world. So a lot of growth, more to come. I think that we have not yet filled the space. I do think that there's more to come, and I think we're going to continue to see creative solutions.
Well, and I think the conversations that are happening, exactly as you said, it's like a web and all these factors of wellness, and gyms really do become and are transitioning to be that full whole hub to create that experience for people. Obviously, you mentioned earlier and just there that boutique element is really seeing that growth spurt. So with that addition of having this part of the show on the Thursday, talk to me about that bridge building and how, let's say, your big box gyms versus boutiques kind of can merge or work together or complement each other.
Yep. And it's the needs of what those sectors want are actually very different, which is why we knew we needed to do a special track just for the studio folks. And so sometimes, if you are a, woman owner of a studio, for example, and you say, how do I get ahead? Well, listen, maybe it has nothing to do with fitness. Maybe it's about public speaking, or learning how to manage your books, or learning about real estate, right? Like maybe it's that type of stuff, which is not necessarily what the big box folks, need to hear or want to hear. So we're trying to create very tailored experiences for both. And so that's why we talk about that strategic advisory council on the front end of the biggest of the big. And then we've got the studios and the harnessing of that. And one cool idea that we had this week at IHRSA that we're going to work to capitalize is even creating a studio council. Where that can be a home for these studios to talk about what, their challenges and their opportunities are. Because the other end of the spectrum is when you get back to the policy conversation where we started, we need all of those voices at the table. And if you are a lawmaker or a decision maker, you look at our industry, and there is no differential between a yoga studio, between a Planet Fitness, between a YMCA. They're all the same. They're all the same universe. So how do we speak with one voice? And so that's really important. And so that's one of the things that we're going to focus a lot on moving forward, is having key tailored fly-ins to Washington, D.C. to have these conversations with these lawmakers. We're going to do one in May around Physical Activity Month, and really excited about that. And people shouldn't be intimidated by this, because I know I've run enough of these for a while. It's like, listen, you don't need to know all the ins and outs of the policy and an omnibus and all that nonsense. You just need to be able to come and talk about what it is that your business does, who you employ, and how you're making this a healthier world. Like that's your job. That's your talking points. And we're just going to continue to build on that.
Well, and you basically are the bumper cars that keeps everyone, or the bumpers on a bowling alley that keeps everyone kind of collectively together, pushes us in the right direction, and just make sure that we're all headed to knock the pins over at the end and make this all come to life. So with this amazing bridge building and the incredible show that's taking place in San Diego, when we have this collective voice, as you look toward moving forward, and you've touched on it, but what is the hope as we head through the rest of 2023 that you would like to see as an organization?
Yeah, so I want to just see more involvement in the conversation. I know that we have a lot of conversations with ourselves. So I say that a lot, like we talk to ourselves a lot, but we need to get out beyond that. So what are we doing? And we at IHRSA created Team 435 and Senate Leadership 50, which is to have representatives from all 435 congressional districts and 2 from each state to essentially be the captains for those districts and those states, and to be the voice. So to be the rallying cry, to be the one that says, okay, here is what we're doing in the district, here's why we matter, and to start to build those relationships. And those don't happen overnight, and they certainly don't happen when we're in a crisis. So that's why we are really in a rebuild mode right now. And the fact that we just haven't really arrived in Washington, D.C. in a really strong, powerful way is an opportunity. Every challenge is an opportunity. And so my goal for the end of the year is to get as many people engaged in this conversation, engaged with IHRSA, however they want to be. The show is a great way to get engaged, but we also have these councils that we've created, and they're so important to me. The NHFA is the National Health and Fitness Alliance, and that's really our policy committee and our advocacy arm for IHRSA. And there's opportunities to be a part of the NHFA. We've got the GHFA, the Global Health and Fitness Alliance, which is the same thing, to be having those conversations all around the world. And then for our partners, the Industry Partner Advisory Council. So, the folks that are really in the supplier space that do so much for our industry, but are, also writing a lot of the checks that we all, ask them to do. And so they deserve a voice. So in fact, one of the things I've done this year is all 3 of those councils, we've given them a board seat, to give them all a vote. So I just want more, I want more involvement, and I want, folks to think that it's not just about joining the IHRSA board or going to the trade show. There's other opportunities to get involved with us. And now with the creation of this studio council, we're just going to be creating more and more opportunities for engagement. And I think that that'll be an important benchmark when we look back in a year to see, how many folks are participating in that. What is the interest? Already, we've seen a lot of interest in it, which is encouraging.
And so let's say you are a small gym owner or small boutique owner that has stumbled across this podcast and is like, I've heard of this IHRSA thing. Do I, don't I? How do I? What would you say to them, or what would be your overarching message?
Yeah, well, I'd say go to our website, IHRSA.org, IHRSA.org. And right there, that gives you all kinds of information for if you want to attend the trade show, if you want to see some of these councils that we're involved in, if you want to see some of these policy initiatives that we're working on, or if you want to get, we've made a lot of our research and our data accessible. We have not put that behind a paid protection wall. That might be changing at some point, but for right now, it's all still accessible, because it's still most important that we're getting that in the hands of people that really need it. And, for those that are, mostly we are reopened, but there are, people around the world that are not. If you're China, many of our Chinese partners have not yet been able to open, and they're still looking at what are air purifying systems and, pool maintenance and that type of thing. So we've got a lot of really phenomenal tools that are on our website that I would also encourage people to take a look at. And then if you see any value in that, perhaps you could think about joining. We make it a really manageable amount. I think it's something like $10 or $12 a month to join IHRSA. So it's not a terrible thing to bite off, but we're really going to be courting more and more of these facilities and learning what it is that they need and they want. That might vary. Some of it might be representation with legislation, and some might be resources. But the more we start to understand the harmful impacts of some of this potential legislation and what that could mean, that really justifies a lot of paying of the dues of our members. If you look at what it would cost if a sales tax were implanted in your state, well, right there, your dues have more than covered what it's going to cost to fight a sales tax, that type of thing. So we're seeing a lot of members that have been involved for a long time that really understand that are stepping up to be premium and to help us bring back our muscle in the States.
Well, and you highlight such a good point there because, and you may even be familiar, but in Canada, that we almost had that happen in the province of Saskatchewan. And I know that it was successfully lobbied against. But again, it's exactly that. We are trying to help people live healthy and well, and it's costing the government a ton of money with the 80% of the populace that is not. So it just seems like such a no-brainer, but obviously we need these voices that are going to advocate and make the change. And I think you bring up a really good point. For such a menial investment, you're getting your voice heard. And on top of that, you have all these incredible leaders that are keeping the pulse of what's occurring, not just in North America, but internationally. That's why you have the IHRSA. And so I think it's just really incredible work that you're doing. I'm so excited to attend the show. San Diego 2023 in March, a few more weeks away. Before I let you go here, Liz, I just want to get from you. I always leave off on a quote. So if you have a little motivational quote to share, I would love to hear it.
Oh boy. I mean, there's a lot, but I'll tell you the one when I'm working out that right now is sticking with me. And that is, and this is probably not motivational to necessarily our audience, but this might be a motivation for when you work out. And it is that pain is weakness leaving the body. So I think that, you know, we've gone through a lot of pain in this industry. We've had a lot of suffering from this industry, but the weakness is leaving the body and we are becoming stronger every day. And it's just an honor to be able to represent this industry and to be able to have this fantastic show and to see things through to the future.
Oh, I think that quote actually translates perfectly because at the end of the day, I know you have all collectively had so many learnings in a short span of time and learnings that really were probably unimaginable before we entered this wild life experience that we all did together. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the incredible work that you're doing. And I will be watching out for you and your sneakers when we try out some of the top of the line equipment and innovations that are coming to IHRSA this year.
Perfect. I'll be there. I can't wait to see you, Chrissy, and everybody else.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.